Renny Show is brought to you by Johnston Group, Vittorio Rossi, Trans-Canada Brewing, Lou Ferlin, Cambrian Credit Union, and Homefield.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Weeb from Sportsnet. Together, we are Kenny and Renny, and this is the Kenny and Renny post-game show. After I'll get to the game, but first, I just wanted to point out how sweet that little show opener is that we have now. One of our sponsors, Homefield. You all know them. You all love them. If you are interested in what Homefield can do for you as far as it comes to branding and just making yourself pop, that's a great example of it right there. Thank you to our friends from Homefield for that. Kenny and Renny post-game show after a game that I would suggest, I don't know that there's not a lot to not like about that game. I mean, you cannot like the bounce that led to the 2-1 goal for the Seattle Kraken. You cannot like that. But other than that, I take a look at this. I love the Jets start. I thought it was important to see the Jets start the way that they started this game, just dominant throughout the first 10 minutes of the first period. Flips in the other direction as the Seattle Kraken find a way to kind of relieve the pressure that the Jets were able to put in that neutral zone. And they kind of take the second half of that period. Jets come out. I thought they were clearly the better team for the vast majority of the second period. And yet somehow they come out of that down 2-1. We all know the hockey gods played a role in that, and one of the most dramatic bounces that I've ever seen. I mean, off the middle of skate, almost right across the rink, then off of another Jet and into the back of the net. That's a tricky one, and kind of what they needed to do to beat a goaltender like David Riddick on this night. We'll get talking about David Riddick in a little bit because he has elbowed his way into the conversation as being one of the Jets' difference makers this year so far. So we got to get in and talk about that. But third period, the Jets come out. I've talked about this before in situations like that. The Jets are a team that clearly opens up their risk profile. I've talked about it in games past. Saw it against Philadelphia. Saw it earlier in the year against the Detroit Red Wings. If you put yourself in a bit of a hole, a lot of times to get out of it, you got to take risks, and those risks come back to bite you. We've seen that with the Jets so far, and I did think the first part of that third period was kind of a bit of a back and forth, and that the Seattle Kraken were handling it well. But the Jets go out and they get their own bounce. The hockey gods turned around and smiled upon the Jets just the way that they had smiled upon the Seattle Kraken earlier in that game. And then, so you're talking about a team that faces resilience throughout that game, is able to push their way, elbow their way back into that game. I think with the vast majority of the game, if you're taking a look at the two teams and what they generated, the Jets were the better team in this game. So them getting the extra point is definitely this was what should have happened in this game here tonight. I think the Jets scoring chances, not only did they outshoot Seattle, which is good to see, because how I feel about these games where it seems incessantly the Jets are getting outshot and outchanced, but somehow find a way to win. Well, I like tonight that they found a way to win against a really good team by being the better team outright. I mean, that's what I want to see more of if I'm a Winnipeg Jets fan, if I'm the Winnipeg Jets coaches, if I'm the players themselves, is coming into a game like this against a team that is clearly very evenly matched with the Winnipeg Jets. I want to see the Jets earn themselves a win, not escape with points, not, hide behind a goaltender that's winning them the game and getting them the 2 points. This was the right way to do it against a team that I think you got to take a look at and realize that the Seattle Kraken and the Winnipeg Jets are a pretty even team, two pretty even teams, if I'm not mistaken. I think now each team took 4 points away from the season series, them playing 3 times. The Jets, yes, they win 2 games, but both the games that they win in extra time. If I'm not mistaken, the Seattle Kraken won outright against the Winnipeg Jets last time. I thought in the second game, the Seattle Kraken were the best team in that game. I thought the first game of the year, and if you remember this, you should, because I think it was one of the more important moments in the Jets season, but the Seattle Kraken were the better team the first time these two teams played, and they had the game done and sewn up 2 points over and done with, except Pierre-Luc Dubois drew that late penalty that gave the Jets 24 seconds or something like that to operate on the penalty. And send it into overtime and ended up winning in overtime. I thought it was important for the Winnipeg Jets to come out here tonight and show that, yes, in a battle against this team, they could win the game because they were the better team, not because they pulled a rabbit out of a hat, not because, they got some, went out and capitalized on a couple of opportunities. This is a really good 5-on-5 team, this Seattle team. It was important that the Jets show that they could hang with them 5-on-5. It was important to show the Seattle Kraken that they could beat them straight up and that they could be the better team on this night. I think it bodes well going into the playoffs. And this is one of the things that we have to take into account here. We keep talking about, and maybe we'll get into a little bit of the trade talk and all those different kind of things, the trade deadline. But one of the things that's happening in the West right now is the West is wide open. No one is grabbing the brass ring. After tonight, the Jets they took 2 points. The Dallas Stars lost in overtime, so the Jets have one game in hand and are 2 points behind the Dallas Stars for first place in the Western Conference. But there's really not a team that is standing out as the benchmark. The Jets are as close as anyone, but if the Jets didn't get that lucky bounce in the third period, Seattle wins that game, and they're right there with the Seattle Kraken. Like, that's how tight things are. The benchmark is not being laid definitively by a specific team. And so because of that, I think you kind of have to approach these playoffs. The mindset that you have to, as the Winnipeg Jets and the Winnipeg Jets players, is you never know who you're going to be running into in this playoff run. It could very well be the Seattle Kraken that come out of the Pacific. And I like the idea that the Winnipeg Jets, after, yes, getting 2 points earlier and getting a victory on this team, but one that they pulled the rabbit out of the hat and then losing the next one, I think it was important to show the Seattle Kraken that we can beat you. We can be the better team on a night. We can hang with you 5-on-5. I think there were a bunch of boxes the Jets needed to tick tonight, and I think they ticked all of them. So on a night where they win in a shootout, and I think if you would have said this last year, based on what the Seattle Kraken were last year, if someone said at the beginning of the year, the Jets pulled out a shootout victory against the Seattle Kraken, maybe people wouldn't be too impressed with it. This is a win that gives me faith. If I'm a Winnipeg Jets fan, third straight victory, but you go back and you take a look at what they did against St. Louis, how close they were to losing that game and just continuing a really tough streak here. This was the first game they've had in their last 3 wins where they beat a legitimate, true contender, and they did it straight up. They didn't do it by getting outchanced, outshot, all those kind of things. This was a true to form Winnipeg Jets win against a true to form playoff team. Well done on all accounts. That's my take on it. Not sure what yours is. I'm sure you'll let me know in the comments, but I want to get the main man's take on this. I haven't heard from him for a while. So let's bring him in. Here's my main man, Kenny, and best music in the business. Kenny, my friend, thanks for handling everything off last show. As the host, I was out, took my wife for not Thanksgiving Day, Valentine's Day lunch, and got stopped, and someone was talking about you hosting the last show. So thank you and Scotty for being there for me as I just plain gave up on the show. I went for holidays and I said, you know what? Here, to take care of it. I don't want to know how you do it. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what guys are talking about. I'm just checking right out. So yeah, I was able to do that for you covering me. So thanks for that, Ken.
Buddy, I told people you were on assignment.
There you go. Well, I was on assignment. I'm a spy, and I get my suits as a spy because spies got to look good, from Vittorio Rossi right here in Winnipeg, as you do, Ken. And if you want to look like an on-assignment spy down in the Cayman Islands, which is where I found myself, you got to go and see our boys over at Vittorio Rossi. Frankie and the boys, head on down to Corden Avenue. They can make you look good no matter the surroundings. They're the best, the absolute best in the business, and you're looking fine there tonight, Ken. I want to see if your takes are as good as you look here, my friend. What'd you think of the game?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, the Jets would be pretty happy with their effort. I mean, it was a sound performance. I would say that they got into a little bit of penalty trouble at times, especially in the first period. It kind of disrupted their flow. I thought they really came out of the gate really strongly. They were out shooting their opponent, I think 11-2 or 11-3 at one point. And then they basically took 6 minutes in minors. That goalie interference to Dylan DeMello for running into Philip Grubauer when he went to the net, and then the 4-minute double minor, which is more of a tough break. It is the right call, but it was just a tough break for Morgan Barron. He's battling with Will Borgen to get past him, and his stick, as he tries to go around him or through him, catches Borgen in the face, drew some blood, and the Jets were kind of not chasing the game, but it really kind of disrupted the flow, especially for their skilled players, Sean. I mean, Rick Bowness mentioned this in the post. A couple of those guys, the guys who don't kill penalties had around 3.5 minutes in the first period. That's just not enough to get into the flow for guys like Nikolai Ehlers and I think to a degree Kyle Connor and Cole Perfetti. So I thought that they did a nice job of rebounding. I mean, obviously we know there was some important shot block. An important shot block by two of them by Adam Lowry during that during the one stretch. We'll get to that in a minute with our little bit of foreshadowing. But overall, I mean, David Riddick very solid. We know he was kind of forced into action. I mean, Rick Bowness didn't want to fully commit this morning, but I think we were pretty sure that David Riddick was going to get the call tonight when we heard Connor Hellebuck was a little bit under the weather. It's interesting, Sean. I mean, we talked about this going into the break. I mean, I actually thought that Riddick would start the first game out of the break, considering it was a 9 p.m. start, and we knew that Riddick would be getting one of the games this week coming up on the road trip here. Probably the game against the Rangers at MSG that you're going to be on site for along with myself. So anyways, that's neither here nor there, but I love the way Riddick played. He was very, you saw it, we saw it, I think you saw it as well, Sean. Riddick came in, he just had this great demeanor this morning. Remember, he came in, he won one of those contests that players have at the end of morning skates, and he basically gave it the old arms in the air, the old Albert commercial for Canadian Tire. I think that might have been way back in the hot tub
Albert.
time. Albert. Exactly, Albert. It was one of those in the old hot tub time machine.
You never could understand. They kept calling him Albert throughout the commercial, so I'm fairly certain his first name was Albert, but the name on the back of his jersey was Albert. It's like, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works.
Hilarious. Anyways, that's the aside. But David Riddick walked right towards Nate Schmidt. Nate Schmidt, not all that impressed, but you got the sense that Riddick was just in a great mood. I mean, he's had a great demeanor all year long this year. And man, oh man, 9-4. Like, are you kidding me? 14 games now, 13 starts, 9-4, 250 goals against, 910 save percentage. 911 save percentage. Just exceptional for a guy who almost found himself out of the league this year, Sean. And we can't repeat that enough. Once again, Rick Bowness giving great credit to Wade Flaherty for the job that he's done working with David Riddick. He's had a great demeanor, as I mentioned. He's been a great partner for Connor Hellebuck. He has that great combination. He keeps things light, but he also knows when it's time to get serious, right? I mean, that's the thing about Riddick that has impressed me so much. He knows his role. He knew going into the year he wanted to play more than last year, where he only had 17 games, and I think it was only like 13 or 14 starts with Nashville behind UC Saros. He's just been great for the Jets. Again, 27 saves today. I thought he was very solid when he needed to be. Not spectacular, but you don't have to be spectacular. Just get the job done, and that's what he's done on a regular basis. I thought for the most part the Jets were very good. I mean, they had, could have had a little bit more finish perhaps, but overall sound effort against a team that is very fast. Like you said, I mean, Rick Bowness said it, multiple times. The Kraken are a legitimate team. They play hard, and they make you work for everything that you get. And the Jets did earn what they got. We'll get into Pierre-Luc Dubois a little bit more as the game moves along, but obviously an important response to I would say an undisciplined penalty at the end of the period. But we've talked about this a lot. I don't mind personally. I know some people are saying, "Oh, you can't take that penalty."
I don't mind that penalty because it shows engagement again. Was the hit late on Vince Dunn? Of course it was late. But you know what? Pierre-Luc Dubois plays on and then over the line. The fact that he got ticked off by what happened in the corner with Adam Larson, I love the fact that he went out and finished that hit, because let's face it, in this game there was almost no hitting. So the fact that you took a penalty, okay, sure, it was undisciplined, I get it. And I would say the same thing if it was Carson Kuhlman or anybody else taking the penalty. I don't mind that penalty one bit because he responded and it kind of got him more engaged in the game. So, like I said, some people are saying dumb penalty, they don't like it. You know what? This is what happens. He draws he draws more than he takes, and you know what? He came and responded by getting the equalizer and the shootout clincher. Yes, Mark Scheifele had the shootout winner technically because it was 2-0, but he scored an important goal. He got himself going. He had a much better third period. And again, that's live by the sword, die by the sword. That's the way it goes. Just ask Carson Soucy. As you mentioned right off the top, on that penalty that got the game to overtime in the first meeting between these two teams. And overall, again, was it a Picasso? No, but I would say the two games for the Jets were coming out of the break, important games for different reasons, closer to their template, and I would say that, points well earned. And also good job by Seattle to get the game to overtime. And I agree with you. I'm still tempted that it's probably going to be either Vegas or Edmonton coming out of the Pacific. But Seattle is a legit contender. What we've been talking about all year, the goaltending with Martin Jones and Philip Grubauer has been a little bit uneven. But if they get goaltending like they got tonight, they're a legit team. Burakovsky was injured, not available. That's a humongous piece out of their lineup. But these guys have 4 lines at play. They play hard. They've got big defense. They make life difficult on their opponent, and they're mobile. So they'll be a tough out for a lot of teams in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And the Jets are also legitimate, which is something that Rick Bowness was more than happy to say on a lot of occasions this week as well. So anyways, that's a long trip to the buffet, a fun game.
That's what you're here for.
A fun game to cover and a lot to really dig into and dive into as we move along here.
I'm just going to talk about this quick before we get into the Lamplighter because people are already getting there pretty quickly.
Sure.
Just the idea of what you're talking about, Seattle. Like the tricky part about this too is never mind the Jets having to worry about facing them if they come out of the Pacific. The way things are going there right now, Vegas seems to have woken up from that lull that gave them problems, and it sounds as though they may be active. Kevin Weeks was saying that to add them to the list of the teams that may be in pursuit of Timo Meier, probably an indication that they don't expect Mark Stone back, and that maybe that would create the space for them to get that player in there. But the Kings too are another team that look like they're trying to be active. And I've said this before, the Kings, we saw them last year. Jets played them a couple times. They looked like they were kind of a tough team to grind against. And then all of a sudden they went into the playoffs against Edmonton and were a real tough grind. I think that one of those two teams is going to end up down in the wild card spot. So, don't be surprised if the Seattle Kraken are a team that the Jets play in the first round, if the Jets are able to surpass the Dallas Stars and end up in first place. Don't be surprised if this Seattle team ends up being the 8th seed. And don't be surprised if this Seattle team ends up making it out of the Pacific. And if the Jets make it to the conference final, they run into them there. This is the really interesting part, Ken, that I find about this is, I said it off the top. I don't think you were there for it. But the West is wide open, and while that makes it sound like it's like boy oh boy, go out and make something happen because no one's a definitive team to go through here. At the same time, it's going to be tough. Like there's no free spaces on the bingo card here. Like if you drew the LA Kings, that's a team that could grind you. And I was saying this the other day. I think I said this to someone. I'd almost rather the Jets end up in second and play a team like the Avalanche in the first round than finish
first. Pretty
first.
big roll of the dice.
Just listen. There's a theory behind it, and I'll explain the theory. I'd almost rather do that than finish first and end up playing a team like the Kings in the first round, because this is what's going to happen if you play the Kings in the first round. They're going to grind you. They are going to grind you like crazy. So if you play the Kings and you win that, and then you move on to the next round, and then you play the Colorado Avalanche, now you got the Colorado Avalanche coming at you with speed. What I'm suggesting is I'd rather take on the Colorado Avalanche before I got into a grind against a team like the LA Kings, who can grind you and have the players to do that. And I'd rather go speed for speed with the Avs right out of the gate than go up against a team that grinds you down and then have to match that speed afterwards. That's all I'm saying about that. I listen, to me, at this stage, especially with this team, whether the Jets go to the first round or the second round, I know it makes a difference to the Winnipeg Jets themselves and Mark Chipman, because they want to make some money. And, probably for the fans, you'd rather see 2 series than 1. But my idea is, if you're planning out the path to a Stanley Cup, for me, that path to the Stanley Cup, if you're probably going to end up playing the Colorado Avalanche along the way, I think I'd rather see them early than late, even if it means there's more likely a chance you're going to go out in one round. Because if you can get that speed behind you while you are still fresh and try and match them speed for speed before you got to start getting into the grind type teams, I think I'd rather handle it like that. Ken, time for us to handle the Lamplighter. Take it away.
Yeah, I think it's, I was tempted to go with Dubois, but I'm actually going to go with the Wheeler goal here, and for 2 reasons. I think that on the play, I think someone mentioned it in the chat room already here, I think Ehlers makes a really heads-up play.
Super heads up.
Because Jamie I honestly think that the reverse was not a terrible idea on that play by Jamie Alexiak. Will Borgen was there. Except Nikolai Ehlers had a great burst of speed to get in between Jamie Alexiak and Will Borgen on the reverse and stole the puck essentially and got it quickly out to Blake Wheeler, who showed just remarkable hands to get Grubauer going side to side and scoring his 15th goal of the season. So for me, although I think the Dubois goal is important because of the response to the penalty he took that the Kraken scored on, I do think that the Wheeler goal, because of the heads-up play by Nikolai Ehlers to steal the reverse, that's my Lamplighter today.
Yeah, I think just because of what Pierre-Luc Dubois said to you, Ken, in that there was no conspiracy theory. He was trying to pass the puck to someone who wasn't there.
And he's been trying that too much lately, Sean. I mean, this is something that I think that Dubois needs to get a little bit greedier. A couple of those plays when he's walking out in front, he can either, even if he doesn't score, if he goes to the stuff play, he will draw that defender to him to open up the backdoor tap that he's been looking for on 4 or 5 different occasions in the last 2 games here.
I think you're right, bang on with it. That whole goal, because what I love about Blake Wheeler and what he still has at an elite level is when he's in tight, he's got that insane patience, and he's just got that reach that's like go-go gadget arms, right? He could take it from, you got to defend the far post, and then he can bring it right back around the other side, and that's what he did in that situation there. I was almost surprised not to see him in the shootout because of that, because we've seen him have success in the shootout in the past. But I mean, we heard about it from out of the horse's mouth with Pierre-Luc Dubois. He's the guy on this team that's actually had a shootout this year, because he had a penalty shot in that game against Vancouver, and he scored on it. So he's 2 for 2 so far this year. So how do you not go with a guy who's batting 1,000? You had to go with him. But Wheeler in tight, boy, oh boy, that's a great play. But to the point that was made in the chat room, and I do think someone was saying they heard it on the broadcast, that Nick Ehlers actually makes the call for the puck, right? Calls for the reverse and fools the defenseman into giving the puck away and then throws it out in front. That's, hey, I love cerebral hockey. To me, that's cerebral hockey, a great play by Nick Ehlers, who we're going to have to tie into a little bit from now because of, I mean, we'll get into that. We'll talk about Nick Ehlers a little bit later. Let's just give a shout out to our friends from TransCanada Brewing Company. That was Ken's Lamplighter of the game. If you are interested in giving us your Lamplighter, and you should be, why? Well, because if you do it, you're automatically entered to win a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale from our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. If you can't wait for Kenny and Renny to give you your 8-pack, head on down to the TransCanada Brewing Company's tap room at 11290 Kenniston. They got the Lamplighters. They got more than that. They got tons of different beers down there. They've got great pizza, great food, great appies, and it is just a great space altogether. You should go check it out, even if you don't win the Lamplighter today. And here, I hate to break it to you, not all of you are. Only one of you are, and I'm going to tell you who that person is right now. It is Gilles Beauchemin is the winner.
Let's go with Gilles.
Let's go with Gilles. Gilles, yeah. I think so. I just know I come from Lactabonnet, where we love to butcher.
You most certainly do. You most certainly do. I'll help you with this.
French names. So Gil or Gilles Beauchemin, you are the winner of the Lamplighter. Let's give it one of those.
Get the gong. Good job. We missed the gong on Saturday.
I haven't been doing the gong for a while now. I realize.
You got to wake up, Reynolds. You got to wake up. You've been on vacation. Let's go.
I got involved with the gong, and now I almost forgot to tell Gilles what he needs to do, because there's a next step, Gilles. You may have won, but you don't get your hands on that Frosty Delicious 8-pack until you message me at SN Sean Reynolds. I need your full name, Gilles Beauchemin. I think I need it spelled out phonetically. No, I don't. I'm just kidding. I need your full name, and I need an email where I can send you the voucher for your Frosty Delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale. Absolutely great stuff, the nectar of the gods. You want in on that, Jill, so make sure you get a hold of me. Let's move on to
Hang on.
Okay.
While we're in TransCanada, we should two things. I have good news and bad news. Our next Kenny and Renny live show is on March 18th at TCB. We just showed the address on Kenniston, 11290 Kenniston. But the bad news is I will not actually be. We've been promoting the March 25th Kenny actual birthday. I will be away on assignment in Los Angeles for the game at the Kings. I will be on the show, but I will not be celebrating in the building with our good folks, our good listeners, our good people and supporters. But I still want you to join my good buddy Sean Reynolds there. It'll be still a fantastic day, and we're fired up for those last two regular season shows. They're going to be fantastic, and let's make that happen.
People, you see what I have to put up with? Kenny calls a party, and then he takes off and goes to Hollywood. I'm going to Hollywood for my birthday, but the party's still on, everybody. Leaves his good buddy Sean Reynolds behind.
That's right.
Leaves his good buddy Renny there to mind the house while he has a party. I will tell you this, Ken, this isn't the first time I've called a party at someone else's house when they weren't there, so I'm practiced at this. A teenage Sean Reynolds did exactly that. I won't get into the story.
You're a good host, Sean. The good news is you're a good host, a very good host. I would say a great host.
I will pull it off. I may even get the crowd to sing you happy birthday.
I have faith in you.
I may even bake a cake. I may even bake a cake and decorate it. And if anyone's gone to my Instagram and seen, I'm pretty good at decorating.
I won't even be home until the 30th, and you're gonna have the cake will still be delicious, I'm sure.
You're
gonna eat it at TCB. Never mind.
We will eat it and enjoy it, and we will shove it in your face, Ken Weeb. We're taking off on your own birthday party. Ken, we have procrastinated for too long. It is time for me to ask you to give us your Johnston Group Got You Covered play of the game. This one could be a little obvious.
This one is very obvious. Adam Lowry, we know he's going through a bit of a goal-scoring slump, but when you're not contributing offensively as much as you would like, you have to find ways to contribute. What Adam Lowry did today earned not a standing ovation, but a pretty loud roar. What he was able to do was twofold. After Brendan Dillon snapped his stick on a clearing attempt that was kept in, Adam Lowry first handed off his left-handed stick to Brendan Dillon, one of the only guys who can probably play with Adam Lowry's stick because he's similar in size and handedness. After handing off his stick, he was able to block two shots, including one from Justin Schultz that went into the seats. The crowd went wild. And after the game, we heard first from Pierre-Luc Dubois and then Adam Lowry that there were once dreams of donning the pads in the National Hockey League, but
Great
Adam
story.
Lowry joking that he was too normal to play goal, so he decided to play forward, and he made the right choice, as he said, with tongue firmly planted in cheek. But those two blocks, and to me also the ability to recognize that he needs to hand off his stick to the defender who needs to clear the front of the net, and then to get into the lane twice and come up with two blocks and get the stoppage in play that they needed during that double minor to Morgan Barron. That was an easy call for our We've Got You Covered play of the game, sponsored by the OGs from the Johnston Group.
The OGs. Hey, I'm going to tell you something, and people are going to think I'm crazy, and especially we're going to get, I'm totally crazy here from Eric Orleson, who during the game said that, and I loved it, right? I loved in that moment that happened, and I tweeted about it, and Eric responded and said he's going to get the Got You Covered play of the game.
Same with Merle Peters, also had that as an early candidate.
There
in
you
my
go,
feed,
for
not in
sure.
yours, but
Oh,
we love
okay.
that. People are getting into it already during the game. That's awesome.
We love it. Absolutely love it. But I will say this, upon further reflection, I think that I have to give consideration, and in my mind anyways, may have to kind of create a tie between that and what we saw from David Riddick down the stretch here. I mean, take a look at this. Grubauer played great tonight, right? Grubauer, I think, was the first star of the game. And I saw Philip Grubauer heading to the net at the start of the shootout, and I was thinking to myself, the Jets may be in a little bit of trouble here right now, because he looked so calm and he looked so confident, and I was wondering what the heck is going on here. This guy looks like he's going to walk out here and he's going to steal this game. Well, it never happened, and who's the one who looked absolutely calm? On the second shot, where Jordan Eberle went down, I was looking at it and I was thinking to myself, there is nowhere for this guy to go. There's nowhere. He is not giving any kind of opening for them to try and score on him here. It's just, I don't know. I just think that if we take a look at this situation and what we've seen from David Riddick, who we should get into and have a conversation about here today, Ken, he did not look like a guy who got a surprise assignment here tonight. He looked like a guy who is entirely ready to go. And there you go. Tico Pauly says it. It's Riddick. You were talking about how loose he was. At the beginning of the morning skate, one of the camera guys put a tripod down off to the side. And David Riddick, on days where, most goalies, it's a game day, they are so zeroed in. Don't look at them. Don't talk to them. David Riddick went and said, jokingly, hey, what's this doing? This isn't supposed to be here. And went and picked up the monopod, a piece of equipment that camera guys use to sit their camera on so that they don't have to rest it on their shoulder, and picked it up and moved it and hid it away in one of the Jets' lockers so that the camera guy couldn't find his stuff afterwards, and left the room with, snickering and with a smile on his face, right? This is a guy who's entirely engaged, doesn't need you to leave him alone, he was as loose as you could possibly be heading into that game, and he was as loose as you could possibly be heading into that overtime. The one goal that was scored on him today was a perfect grade A redirection that was hard for him to get to. The second one was, an act of the hockey gods that gets by him in that situation, something that you could never do again if you tried to replicate the play 100,000 times. He came out here tonight, and as good as Philip Grubauer was, the Winnipeg Jets win this game with a huge serving of great goaltending from David Riddick. And because of that, I have him in a tie with Adam Lowry for the Johnston Group Got You Covered play of the game. Brought to you, of course, by the Kenny and Renny OGs, the Johnston Group. And you won't find two businesses with the same challenges, but you will find 30,000 businesses with Chambers Plan employee benefits, proudly administered by our great friends at Johnston Group. Chambers Plan is Canada's #1 plan for employee benefits because it evolves with the way you work and live. The plan is run as a not-for-profit designed specifically to support small businesses, and its unique pooling strategy keeps rates stable so you won't have any surprises at your next renewal. Chambers Plan now comes with professional consulting on key financial, legal, and HR issues, and teledoc telemedicine services are included with every health option. See how Chambers Plan can benefit your business by visiting chamberplan.ca. You got something to say,
Sorry.
Ken?
I do, sorry. I'll do the Lou Ferlin read, but your headphones are cracking slightly, I believe.
Headphones are cracking. Headphones or microphone?
Well, the mic shouldn't be cracking, but we've had this thing happen before with the headphones, maybe.
All right. Well, here, you...
that sounds better.
Okay,
If it's closer to your mouth, maybe it's better. Anyways,
leave it at that.
For the good folks who need realty needs help with buying, selling, curiosity about the house down the street, maybe you're looking to move to another neighborhood.
Spy on your neighbors?
Well, I wouldn't say that. No, I am not saying that at all. No, just trying to see how they've got the house decorated. That's all, my man.
I get it. My wife loves doing that stuff.
Yes, you can contact our main man, Lou Ferlin of Royal LePage Dynamic Realty. You can reach him at 204-791-9971 or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@louferlin.ca. That's LOU@LOUFURLAN.ca. And the website is www.louferlin.ca. Lou Ferlin, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of the community, and we thank him for his support.
See, now that you've let it slip that sweet Lou does that, he's going to be getting phone calls from my wife all the time because she loves idea of going in and just looking at houses, right? She's one of those people that, she's not going to buy. We haven't been in the housing market since we bought our place here back in 2014, but she always wants to know what's going on, what changes have been made, especially on those houses that, go up for sale. A couple times that same house keeps going up for sale. You want to see the changes. I mean, I lived in one of those houses. Our first house, it apparently changed hands like 17 times. And I moved in there. I didn't think we'd ever leave. And then we moved within 4 years, and it was nothing to do with the house. It was one of these houses that just is constantly churning over on the market. And I'll tell you this, Ken, I drive by it. I had that place perfect. I re-roofed it. The old Reynolds Roofing Company went to work, came out of retirement for that one, did a whole bunch of work to the exterior, painted it. It looked perfect. And then I went driving by about a year later, and they took, this nice cedar brown roof, and I had like a nice kind of cream colored trim all over the place, and it was looking just perfect. And they painted it like slate gray, which just clashes with the cedar colored shingles that I have, and it drives me nuts every time I go by there. I want to knock on the door and say, what did you just do? Like, that was in perfect shape and you spent money to make it look like this. What happened? Who hurt you? What's wrong with you people? Anyways, I've got issues. I freely admit it. We need to move on. I'm going to say I want to launch the conversation about David Riddick by saying this. Another win for him. Adam Lowry talked about it and said it. On the nights where he goes in, he's quite often getting the second of a back-to-back where he gets a tired team in front of him. Every excuse to suggest that, never mind that he's the backup goaltender, but the team is usually not giving their best in front of him, and yet he's doing what he's doing right now. Again, higher winning percentage than the starting goaltender out there. I'm going to say this, Ken, with the play that we saw from Josh Morrissey in that St. Louis game where he picked the Jets up by their bootstraps, and what that turning point has been over these last 3 straight wins from what we're seeing here, I think it's just more and more evidence that I'm right, that Josh Morrissey is the MVP of this team, and it's not Connor Hellebuck, because the backup goaltender is getting it done at a greater frequency on average than he is. And this is another night where Josh Morrissey played a role in the comeback goal that ends up helping this team get over the hump, and does so on a night where he becomes the franchise's new leader in single season assists by a defenseman. This started out as being a David Riddick thing. It's kind of turning into a Josh Morrissey thing. Take it in whatever direction you want. Just admit that you're wrong and that Josh Morrissey is the MVP of this Jets team, Ken.
We'll see what Game 82 brings. Another excellent performance by Josh, and I've been praising him all season, and was happy to report, and also wanted to thank all the folks in the chat room, those of you who took the time to read my column on Josh Morrissey going into the All-Star game. It was very well read and well received, and got some great feedback, and had a good chance to talk with Josh briefly about his experience at the All-Star game. He absolutely loved the time he got to spend there with his family, and getting to rub shoulders and have conversations with the All-Stars, and just sitting around the room picking the brain of guys, and
getting to catch up with some guys he played with both in junior, with like Leon Draisaitl and guys he played on the World Junior team. And man, Sean, we talk about looking sharp. I mean, how about that pink suit that he was rocking there on the red carpet? It was pretty impressive. Anyways, the MVP debate will continue as long as the season goes on, and I mean, we'll see how it goes. I mean, they're both very capable candidates, but I mean, I think there's still some time to determine where things are at. And right now, Adam Lowry, just for the record, Adam Lowry also said he believes Connor Hellebuyck is the best goalie in the NHL. So, I mean, I would say his vote is, even though he's appreciated what Josh has done, his vote probably was said right there as well.
We're not talking the Vezina right now. We're not talking the Vezina trophy. We're talking the internal team MVP.
They've got two great MVPs so far. I don't.
It.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, David Riddick. We can get going on this a little bit more here. I mean, we've been honest from the very beginning. I don't think David Riddick was the first choice of the Winnipeg Jets. The first choice was Eric Comrie to bring him back, but not at the money he signed for. After that, I'm not 100% sure. I believe the Jets had interest in several other goalies, including Charlie Lindgren. I think would have been a guy that they would have had some interest in as well, who signed with Washington. But man, David Riddick has ended up being a absolutely dynamite pickup. I love the way that he, like I said, conducts himself on a daily basis. I'm a big fan of joy level, Sean, as you know, and I Nate Schmidt has more fun probably than anyone in the world, but David Riddick is in the conversation when it comes to bringing the joy level to the arena on a daily basis, and that's a hard job. I mean, all we hear from every single player that talks about David Riddick, they love his personality. They love the work that he puts in. This is a guy who got healthy in the offseason. He had a great interview with Paul Edmonds on the pregame show at CJOB a couple months back. Talked about getting himself healthy and getting himself back in a great headspace, and his motivation was high. I mean, he needed to have a good year to stay in the league, and that is exactly what he's been doing. He's been exactly what the Jets needed. He's going to be in that 20 to 22 start range. He's been dynamite. He has actually provided, some stability at a position that hasn't, the Jets have had a good run now of backups, right? Between Laurent Brossoit, Eric Comrie, and now David Riddick. Those guys have all done a fantastic job, and it's been important. It's an important job because the Jets aren't going to a job share situation. They're not going to 1A, 1B. So when you only have the opportunity to play once a week or once every 10 days, you need to find a way to keep yourself sharp, and that's not easy. So to me, it's been impressive to watch, and Riddick has been dynamite. And as I mentioned earlier, I think Wade Flaherty's just done a dynamite job with the net binding situation, and you can tell that David Riddick appreciates the efforts that Wade Flaherty has put in with him as well, and it's led to an excellent relationship. And Sean, I don't know about you, but I can easily see a scenario where David Riddick is back with the Jets next year on another 1-year deal. I mean, I don't know why. I don't know why. What the impediment would be. We know the Jets aren't going to have a ton of extra money. I mean, I don't think you could see Riddick go from his current contract to like making $3 million or anything like that. But I would definitely think they would like to have him back. And going into the year, I would have thought it was a 1-year stopgap. But with Mikhail Burden going back to the KHL, I mean, I think the Jets have a great tandem with Arvid Holm and Oskari Salminen. But I don't think either one of those guys are ready to become an NHL backup. So I think keeping Riddick in the fold will be, something that would make a whole lot of sense for the Winnipeg Jets as long as the two sides can agree on, term and money. But, man, he's been excellent. And like I said, that's a testament to him. And like we've said before, David Riddick didn't need to be all-star David Riddick like he was with the Calgary Flames, but he needed to be a consistent presence. And that is exactly what he has provided for the Winnipeg Jets, and he deserves a ton of credit for doing so. And like I said, Wade Flaherty is an excellent goalie coach. He has been since he arrived in this town, and he continues to be the goalie whisperer, as someone mentioned. I think it was T. Konopoli, right? So, I mean, that's just an absolutely fantastic comment, and it's 100% accurate.
Sorry, I've unplugged the earphones. I'm hoping that gets rid of the crackling.
It has,
let
yes.
me know if it doesn't. Okay. Hey, I fully expect him to be back. And here's the situation. We all know, like throughout his time in the NHL, we know that things went sour for David Riddick. We know that he came here trying to prove that he was still an NHL player. We know that there was a feeling around the league that he wasn't still an NHL player. And I think if most of you listening to us right now are being honest with yourselves, you were the ones saying that when he got picked up. I don't remember very many people rejoicing about the Jets picking him up in the offseason and him coming here. We know he had a real tough time last year in play when he was with the Nashville Predators. I think this is a scenario by which David Riddick is really enjoying himself. And you are right, Ken. He's that kind of guy. He is an add to the Jets dressing room in that he makes it a more fun place. And let's be honest, one of the issues we know the Jets have had over the years is even at times when they were succeeding, they made hockey look like it was a job, not like it was fun.
Yeah.
It's hard to do that with guys like Nate Schmidt in the dressing room. But even last year, you could see at points that Nate Schmidt, the sunshine that he brought into the room was getting covered up by the clouds. And even he seemed to be kind of falling underneath that weight. David Riddick has come in and makes the Jets room a really fun place. He is constantly bugging guys in the room, joshing back and forth with everybody, and you see the Jets laughing at it. He's not just doing it with them, he's doing it with the training staff, he's doing it with the media, he's doing it with the PR folks. He brings everybody in and makes everybody feel involved. I think the Jets are more of a team because of him. That's something, we should be talking about, Ken, because we see it behind the scenes. I don't think the fans get to see that, and we've got to be able to share our access, and that's one of the things. I do truly think that David Riddick, hey, he's a team guy. That's what Rick Bowness said about him here tonight. Rick Bowness sees the value of David Riddick, not just in what he does on the ice, but what he's doing in that dressing room. And we can't discount how good he's been. I think he's been good for Connor Hellebuyck. Sometimes when you've got a goaltender tandem, that tandem helps elevate a guy. So we were talking already about a guy like Dylan DeMello and what he's done to elevate Josh Morrissey's game this year. By the same token, you have to talk about Connor Hellebuyck once again, probably being in the conversation for the Vezina Trophy. And you have to talk about that goaltending partnership between the two of them and how that Connor Hellebuyck has probably benefited from David Riddick being there. Never mind the results you're getting from David Riddick. Never mind him being able to do what he did on a night like tonight where he shows up in the morning not expecting to start and ends the day the way that he did, in a way like that. He has been everything you could hope for from him, but he's been, to a degree, and I don't want to overstate this, and I am, but in the sense of a career, he's kind of been to hell and back. Like, I think he didn't think, there's a big part of him that didn't think he'd be in the league this year. And I think he'd be pretty upset and bitter if his career had ended like that. And let's be absolutely clear here, Ken. If he would have not made it back in the league this year, it's not like he was coming back in 2 or 3 years. That would have been his last chance. So I think David Riddick knows that. I think he knows a good situation when he gets in one. I think he likes this room. I think he likes the idea that he's playing for a contender. So people saying that they could get him locked up for 1.25, 1.5 million a year, I could see that absolutely happening, and I could see him not taking too big of a contract to stay in the league, but stay in the league with the Winnipeg Jets, because he doesn't look like a player to me that has designs on trying to steal a crease and become a starter anymore. I think he knows his role. I think he loves his role here. And because of that, I think you're bang on. I would fully expect to see him back with the Winnipeg Jets this year. And it's nice to see them solve a problem that at the beginning of this year, I mean, this is one last thing I'll say on this, Ken. At the beginning of the year, in our chat room, people constantly talked about the idea that he was going to come back to bite the Jets at some point in this season. Now, there's still time, but all you who thought that was going to happen, your take is aging atrociously. It's aging horribly. It is ice cold. It is such cold ice that you could drop it from the top of a building and it wouldn't even shatter. It is that frozen. So good on David Riddick for doing what he's done. I wanted to talk a little bit more about Pierre-Luc Dubois. saw his goal there tonight. He comes out and, absolutely buries it to win the game. We talked about that penalty that he took. People are weighing in on it. A couple things that I wanted to talk about. There was a play earlier in the game. I turned to Christian O'Mell. I was surprised by it. He was breaking the puck out of the zone, put himself in a really, really a dangerous position. Put it this way, if it was 2000 NHL hockey, he would have been caught. A guy would have drove his shoulder into his chin, and he probably would have been out with a concussion. Or I guess if it's 2000 hockey, he would have had a concussion, and he just would have ended up playing through it and ended up, having lifelong consequences from it. But the player didn't even drop the shoulder on the chest. The player just kind of rubbed him, but let him go by. The thing that I thought that was hilarious about that, Ken, was like, Pierre-Luc Dubois had his life in the opponent's hand, and the opponent spared him. And then Pierre-Luc Dubois just turned around and took that penalty with malice right shortly afterwards. And I just love the idea of a guy who's like, oh, you showed me mercy? Yeah, well, don't expect any from me. I just love that idea of Pierre-Luc Dubois where he is just, there's something in him that he's like, if I need to be a jerk to you to win this game, I'm going to be a jerk. And you could have come to me before the game and you could have baked me a cake. You could have, offered me, lent me $100. You could have done all these things, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to punch you in the mouth the first opportunity that I get. That is Pierre-Luc Dubois, and I absolutely love that. I love the idea, even though it's, it's a hockey gods giving the Jets a bounce back kind of goal. I don't want to go too far because he said it himself. He was trying to pass to someone who wasn't there, and that ended up going in. I do think it's kind of strange that the defender defended that the way he did. Like, the defender defended that play as though Pierre-Luc Dubois was passing it to someone, right? But there was no one there. There was no one at all there. So I guess maybe that's where Pierre-Luc Dubois deserves credit for this goal, is that he was so believed that someone was there that he sold a pass to someone who wasn't there, and the defender bit on trying to break up a pass to someone to break up an empty net goal, thinking that someone was there, because Pierre-Luc Dubois was so convincing that there was someone there, and he redirects it in. There was really no need for the defender to slide back into the play like that and redirect the puck towards the net. So maybe there's something cerebral in there. Maybe it's instinct, but it sure worked out for Pierre-Luc Dubois and the Winnipeg Jets in that situation.
Great movement too, right? I mean, Connor to Morrissey and then down low. I mean, that was a well-executed puck movement from the Jets there. Just a quick one. Somebody had asked, I think it was Roy Mack, about Hellbuck. I mean, Hellbuck will be on the plane tomorrow. So, I mean, sick enough to not play. I don't think it's an issue whatsoever. I'd expect him to start against the Columbus Blue Jackets unless something strange happens. And yeah, I mean, I think he's fine, and the next time we're going to see David Riddick is probably Monday against the New York Rangers after Hellebuck plays Thursday and Sunday, I guess it would be, against the Devils. So fun stretch coming up. I mean, we know we've documented, Sean. I mean, the Jets have struggled against the East at times, and I think this is an important trip for them on a lot of levels. I know that one quick one, I love the way the third line played, and Mason Appleton has done a dynamite job since coming back into the lineup. Don't you agree? I mean, I think he's been very involved. Obviously, he got the breakaway today off the post. I think he's been very effective and really kind of given that line a little bit more of a boost. Obviously, the Jets need more offense from the third and fourth lines. There's no doubt about that. But I think that Appleton can help get them that as the weeks move along here. He doesn't look like a guy who's out for 38 and is back for 2, is what I'm saying.
Right. Okay, Ken, we're still going to have to hand out the Home Field Dig Deeper Award. We got only 6 minutes left before we hit the hour mark. Do you want to talk more about Josh Morrissey, or do you want to give a voice to the latest kind of conversations that we could have about the trade deadline? I know that our chat room will always.
Yeah, I think deadline. I mean, we talk about Josh almost every single game, so we can give him a break. We've already talked about him, and it well deserved on a lot of fronts. Passing Toby Enstrom and his 44 assists that he put together in 2009, 2010. He's going to pass Dustin Byfuglien, and as Pierre-Luc Dubois said, they have 28 games to go, and he is going to set a very high bar by the time this season comes to an end when it comes to both assists and points.
It's really crazy if you think about it. Like, Dustin Byfuglien was a phenomenal defenseman at putting up points, and for Josh Morrissey to be surpassing that at this stage of the
Game
season,
54. I mean,
it's astounding.
It is.
Like, and this is the other thing about this. I sorry, I'm just not to hijack this, but I saw someone put a list together of like Canada's best kind of roster, and Josh Morrissey wasn't on the defense on that team, and I was thinking to myself, like, Josh Morrissey is the highest scoring Canadian defenseman in the league right now. Like, what more would you want from this
He's
guy?
on the team.
And like the argument right now at this stage that you are all making, I know you're making it about Josh Morrissey winning the Norris Trophy, despite what we're seeing from Erik Karlsson, which is special, is that Josh Morrissey is going to do more defensively than Erik Karlsson is. You know that that's going to happen. And here's something I thought was interesting, especially because the Oilers are a team that intrigues me. I know Elliot Friedman has them winning the Cup this year. He had that at the beginning of the year. And I do think that there's a lot more depth there than there's been in the past. The idea that we keep hearing of them potentially picking up Erik Karlsson, and I was kind of thinking, wow, that makes them pretty dangerous. But I also thought at the same time, if you take a look at situations, what would you rather have? Erik Karlsson at $11.5 million or Josh Morrissey at what he makes with the Winnipeg Jets going forward in the Western Conference? Like, Josh Morrissey is the better defensive player. He's a way better value. Captain type material, what we're looking at here. Josh Morrissey just like seems to tick every single box, and the idea that is going to get him into the Norris conversation is the fact that he gets the offense. He gets not quite to the degree that we're seeing from Erik Karlsson, a little, quite a bit below that degree, but he does it while not giving an inch defensively. And it's crazy to think that people wouldn't have him as one of Canada's defensemen right now. It's insane to think that. But
Yeah,
anyways.
and we should just quickly say too. I mean, a lot, even when it was before the World Cup or Olympics were canceled. I mean, Craig Button, our pal Craig Button, had Josh Morrissey on a lot of his lists, and people were like, "Oh, what is he talking about?" I mean, he was ahead of the curve on Morrissey, and I just thought it was welcome on that front for him. And a quick one too, just one quick thing, folks. When it comes to trades, rumors get tossed around. I mean, this is happening to me also. I once clicked on one of those sites that runs hockey rumors on Facebook, and I can't get rid of it now. And just because something ends up in your Facebook feed that says the Jets are looking at Kevin Hayes, I would say pump the brakes on that one. I think Kevin is a good person, and yes, we know that it hasn't always gone. He's been healthy scratch this year, and a year he went to the All-Star game. Kevin Hayes, I don't think he was a humongous fan of being here. I think he enjoyed the organization and whatever else, but I don't see a scenario where Kevin Hayes is coming back. He's on a $7 million multi-year deal.
He's not coming here.
Exactly. So don't believe every single rumor that you hear. We know that the insiders are plugged in. I have not seen Kevin Hayes linked to the Jets by any reputable source. I know Elliot and Jeff Merrick, our colleagues at Sportsnet and 32 Thoughts and Hockey Night in Canada, have mentioned James Van Riemsdyk. Personally, I don't see a humongous fit there either. I know he does get to the net on the power play, but I don't think they're looking at JVR as a second power play guy. So I think the Jets, if the Jets are going to get someone from Philly, go get Travis Konechny. I get it. They don't want to trade him, but if you want to get a forward from Philly, make it him, is what I would say on that front. Luke Schenn is a guy who I've been talking about for, I think, at least a month now. I think he makes a lot of sense for the Jets on the back end, bringing some stiffness, some size. He's a Stanley Cup champion. But to me, I'm still on the same page here, Sean. Ivan Barbashev, I was just on St. Louis radio today with their, with ESPN there. I think Barbashev makes a ton of sense for the Jets. I still think, Ryan O'Reilly would be a great fit here as well. He'd be a great fit anywhere. And for those who missed it, our pal Frank Saravalli over at Daily Faceoff in his Valentine's Targets had Barbashev to the Jets. He also had Ryan O'Reilly to the Dallas Stars. And I know you would love that move, Sean, and so would I. If I'm Jim Nill and I can make that move, There's going to have to be a little bit of wiggling in terms of the salary. But, man, if you're the Dallas Stars and you want to try to separate yourself in this division, I think Ryan O'Reilly would be a fantastic fit for the Dallas Stars. But, in terms of for the Jets, I think Timo Meier, there's tons of interest around Meier, so somebody's going to have to win a bidding war. Is it going to be the Jets? I don't know. I don't know what Kevin Cheveldayoff is willing to pitch in that deal. And I don't know if Timo Meier is willing to commit. And if Timo Meier is not ready to commit longer term, then it's not going to work considering the price tag. So what we've learned from Kevin Cheveldayoff is that he often tries to go and find somebody who you don't know is available. I look at Paul Stastny as the best example of that. Nobody in the league knew he was available. He was on no trade boards, and that's who the Jets got. So we're always wondering and speculating and trying to figure out who they're looking for. But that would be something that we still need to look at. Look at someone who hasn't been talked about. I think Meier would be a great fit and would be worth whatever the high price tag would be, provided he's willing to stay here. To me, Barbashev is one of those guys, we've seen it with the Jets, Sean. He would not necessarily just be a rental. He's a rental right now, but if you're the Jets, you bring Barbashev in, you're going to try to sign Barbashev, right? I mean, that's how I view this situation. And I still think he's a great fit for the Jets. And, we've seen some of the price tags. Maybe it's a second and a prospect, or maybe it's a first if they can get it. But I think Barbashev is still a perfect fit for this team. He would bring all of the elements that they would be looking at. I just don't see Bill Guerin moving Jordan Greenway to the Jets. I think when Greenway is healthy, this year he hasn't been healthy. When he is engaged physically, he's an absolute beast and a force. And that line with Joel Eriksson-Ek and Marcus Foligno was the kind of line that gave teams like the Jets absolute nightmares. But I just don't see that happening right now. But anyways, we're going to see. That's going to be fun. The next while, we're going to see who else is out there, what's happening. I mean, what else do you see, Sean? I mean, I think it's a fun time of year, but it's also silly season. So, everything you got to listen to is with a grain of salt.
Well, I've had this thought. I still think the Jets are going to swing, and I think they're going to swing big. And the reason I say that is because I talked about this with Remo on Winnipeg Sports Talk, but it kind of hit me a little while ago. I mean, remember Nathan Smith? Everyone was so excited about him, and yes, I know he was never going to stay with the Winnipeg Jets, and he was going to go, so they had to move him. But he's the price tag of what they did to move the contract of Brian Little to the Arizona Coyotes, which now, if you take a look at, if you are a GM right now around the league and you wish that you could do something, you wish you'd put yourself in the situation that the Winnipeg Jets have, that Kevin Cheveldayoff has put the Winnipeg Jets in. They've got all kinds of money to spend. Money will not be a limiting factor for them going forward here. They can do what they want financially. And so my whole take on this is, if not to use that money, what'd they do it for? What did they move that contract for? What did they move Nathan Smith for? What did they position themselves like this to open up this ungodly amount of cap space to only turn around and not do anything with it, right? The Jets are going to do something, and I think that they're going to swing big. The tricky part to your, and this is what I think the holdup is. You were talking about this before, and I think if we go back to the original argument that we had way back in, late November and early December about the injuries, and everyone wanted them to make a move. Well, Kevin Cheveldayoff didn't want to make a move because he wanted to accumulate cap space, right? If you're looking for the answer why he didn't go out and get help when the Jets were so vulnerable to injury that time, this is why, is he was trying to open up this cap space. So everything that he's done up to this point suggests he's building up a war chest to spend it. And the thing is, with this war chest, it's not real money. The Jets are still paying everybody up to the cap, but the cap space they have is because of the injuries and everything that they've accumulated. You don't get to take that with you, people. If they don't spend it this year, it's not waiting around for next year. So this is the only window in the next 3 weeks that Kevin Cheveldayoff has to capitalize on some brilliant cap management that the Jets have pulled off this year. And it's the biggest advantage that they have, right? Because getting players to come to Winnipeg, it's not easy, right? But being able to open up money like this has put him in a better situation than any other team in the NHL heading into the trade deadline right now. So it's the biggest advantage the Jets have. If I'll tell you this, if he doesn't use it, if Kevin Cheveldayoff doesn't use the giant cap space allotment that he has for this team, I don't know what any of these moves were for. I don't know why they didn't go get someone back in December. I don't know why they moved Nathan Smith. I don't know why they didn't just keep Brian Little here so that they could, he could not play out, but like watch his contract tick away with the team that had meant so much with him and he'd spent his entire time with. Like, the Jets have made every single move, and it looks like they've done it so that they could swing big. If they don't swing big, it basically means they tried and no one would come here or no one would deal with them. Or at the last minute, he wasn't willing to pay the prices that were out there. And you know my thoughts on this. The prices are the prices. If you want to compete this year, you pay whatever the market is. If you want to go, if you need to buy a house, sorry, but you're going to have to jump into the same market everybody else is in. The prices are the prices. So whatever the prices are this year, if you're Kevin Cheveldayoff, you're either paying them or you're not. And if you're not, he's stuck in this in-between land that he has been stuck in the past of, we want to hold on to our future, but we want to address our present. And that just, it hasn't worked in the past. And it really hasn't worked since 2018. If the Jets want a different outcome, they're going to have to push for a different outcome. And they're going to have to do that by swinging big. And once again, I'll say this, I truly think that they're going to.
I agree totally. And I mean, we know the Jets made a strong push to try to get Mark Stone. Vegas made a bigger offer, and they were also able to get the extension done quickly with Mark Stone also. This is a chance for the Jets. I'm not saying to right or wrong, because that's not the way that it works, but it's a big opportunity for them to take a big swing and try to make a run because of what we talked about right out of the gate. The West is more wide open than it has ever been, and I think the Jets will make a big move, and I think they also make another, I think a secondary move. Can they get all three pieces done? I mean, can you get a middle six forward, a fourth line forward, and a defenseman? I mean, I think that's what the Jets are trying to get accomplished. What level of player they are able to bring in, that I'm not sure about. But again, I don't see any scenario where the Jets are going to stand pat. I don't see it for all the reasons that you mentioned. The Jets have, openly discussed the importance of accumulating cap space. I know some folks in the chat room have been asking about Patrick Kane. We just saw him on Saturday. I think Patrick Kane would be rejuvenated by going to a contender. But to me, I know Patrick Kane spoke out about it and he was upset about all the talk that's been about his hip. But he just does not have the same explosiveness that he used to. He's still an incredibly skilled player and can help some teams. But he's mostly an all offense player, and the Jets have a lot of offense on their team already. We know they need to add some offense, but I don't see that as a perfect fit either. So I think it'll be elsewhere.
Yeah. Hey, I just wanted to say something here quick. Comet says, I predicted 6 weeks ago that Chevy would pull the trigger today, February 14th. I was wrong again. I maybe I'm reading this wrong. It feels like Comet's really down by some of their comments today. And if they are, I want to send out some positive vibes to you, Comet. And anyone out there, if you're listening, if anyone's having a hard time or anything like that, you see it right here. Just reach out, SN Sean Reynolds, if you need to chat or something like that. People are there to chat to and consider that for us as well. Okay, time for us to get out of here, Ken. Or do you have anything to say before I announce our winners?
Home field. Yeah, winner. Right on, man. Good.
Okay, so I am going to hand this out to I don't know. I thought this was kind of funny. I'm just going to go with it.
Quick one. Central Division Hockey, the podcast. You need to send me a note or Sean a note to claim your shovel for winning the Dig Deeper Home Field Dig Deeper Award on Saturday.
Yeah, so it is time to throw a spotlight on the comments that we think stand out for the Home Field Dig Deeper Award. And that comment is coming from Rob Mahoney, who says, Sean, it's today Valentine's Day, a reminder for us single people to try harder and be better, so next year we're not dealing with this misery, loneliness, and despair in 1 year's time. I just wanted to bring this up because I know that Valentine's Day could be a hard day for people. And I think Comet had made a similar comment earlier on, and we saw a couple of those. I know it can be a tough one. Rob, I'd say this, the credo of hockey players and professional athletes is one day at a time, doing the best thing you can do to put yourself in a better situation tomorrow. So you know what? This, I think, is a good idea. Exactly what you're saying. This is a reminder to just try harder, to stay in the fight, to use a Paul Mauriceism. Stay in the fight, Rob Mahoney and Comet and everybody out there. You are doing fine. You're doing better than you think you are. And it'll be great to be chatting with you right here on February 14th next year when you tell us about your blossoming love life and everything that's going so great and so good in your life. So good job, Rob Mahoney. Thanks, Rob, for your winning comment. And just like Rob Mahoney, Home Field is always going to dig deeper to find the best marketing solution for your company. Find out how at myhomefield.ca. Thank you so much. Now what you got to do, Rob Mahoney, you just got to direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name. And also, if you can, send me your email so that I can send you your Home Field Dig Deeper shovel. If you pop that down, one of these bad boys, you love them. The trunk shovel looked like we were really going to need it at some point today. All those things seem to have blown out a little bit, but it's a lovely trunk shovel. You want it, Rob, so make sure you get a hold of me. Thank you so much for your comments. Thank all of you for all your comments. Another great show. I got to tell you, I was missing this a lot, Ken. It is good to be back. It's good to be back chatting hockey with you. It is good to be back chatting hockey with our chat room. They're the best. You're the best. Thank you so much for that. And speaking of the best, we got to talk about the best sponsors that we could have ever hoped for in Vittorio Rossi, TransCanada Brewing, Johnson Group, Lou Ferlin, and Home Field. If I've said this once, I've said it 1,000 times. If you appreciate the conversations that are happening in these spaces, please appreciate our sponsors who are fighting to keep these conversations happening in these spaces. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much to all of you. We will be chatting with you again on Thursday when Ken will be in Columbus along with the Jets, and I will be in New York City in anticipation of 2 Sportsnet games next Monday and next Wednesday. As for Monday Night Hockey against the Rangers and Wednesday Night Hockey against the Islanders. Big set coming up for the Jets here. They play the second worst team in the league, or the worst team in the league. Yeah, the worst team in the league right now. And then they go into a bit of a murderer's row in a tough Devils team, really tough Rangers team that looks like they have woken up. And I don't know, maybe the Islanders will wake up. I don't know what's going on with them, but we'll see what happens. Either way, we'll talk about it right here with all you. Can't wait to talk to you then. Have a great one, everybody.